The silver tray hit the dining room floor on one edge and spun beneath the queen's table. Princess Talai shoved her blue cup after it, and the cup rolled until it struck Gabriel Holt's squeaking cleaning cart. Gabriel stopped with one hand on the cart handle and the other holding a cloth. The royal dining chamber aboard the Sable Crown had been designed to make ordinary people feel small. Its ceiling arched 4 decks overhead. Pale light ran through black ribs in the walls. Beyond the long windows, Calyx's reach hung against the stars. A ring of docks, gardens, and traffic lanes wrapped around a blue-white moon. None of that mattered to the girl, sitting rigidly beside Queen Marisol. 6 untouched meal trays stood on the service table behind her. The 7th was on the floor. "Talai," the queen said quietly. The princess folded her 4-fingered hands against her chest and turned her face away. She was young even by Narethi standards, small enough that her feet did not touch the floor from the high-backed chair. The silver markings along her cheeks had faded from bright pearl to dull gray during the last day. Fleet Marshal Oran Vec stepped away from the wall. His uniform was dark, perfect, and entirely free of the dust Gabriel had been chasing through the guest deck since morning. "Your Highness," Vec said, "the physician has cleared the meal." "I know. She has refused food from the royal kitchen, the diplomatic kitchen, and the station kitchens." "I know that too." Vec looked at Talai. "Then this is not a supply problem." Gabriel crouched to recover the cup before an attendant could reach it. The little thing was bright blue, cheap by royal standards, and scratched around the rim. He set it upright on the table. A sharp citrus cleaner smell brushed his nose. He paused. The dining chamber was cleaned with Narethi vapor polish, which smelled faintly like warm stone. Gabriel knew because he had spent 3 shifts learning which human cleaning agents were forbidden near Narethi skin, which cloth fibers set off their air filters, and which floor coatings made their boots slip. Citrus did not belong here. He looked toward the nearest service vent. The smell was gone. Vec noticed him looking. "Is there a problem, custodian?" Gabriel straightened. "Not sure. You are assigned to the human delegation corridor. And this is the human delegation corridor's dining annex." Vec's eyes narrowed a fraction. Queen Mara lifted a hand before he could answer. "Let him work." Gabriel pushed his cart toward the fallen tray. One wheel gave its familiar squeak every half-turn. He had reported it twice. The replacement part was waiting on the kindred, and he had stopped caring. The food on the tray looked untouched. Soft grain, steamed root strips, a bowl of dark sauce, and a square of pale protein cut with royal precision. Gabriel did not know Narethi cooking, but he knew spills. He also knew residue. The outer lip of the bowl carried a faint white film where no film should have been. He rubbed a gloved fingertip over it. "Don't," Talai said. Gabriel looked up. It was the first word she had spoken since he entered. "Don't touch it." Her voice was thin but certain. Gabriel lowered his hand. "All right." Vec exhaled through his nose. "Princess, you have said every meal smells wrong." "It does. The physician's instruments disagree." Talai's eyes flashed. "Then the instruments can eat it." Queen Mara almost smiled. It vanished quickly. Gabriel lifted the tray by its clean underside and slid it onto his cart. "What does wrong smell like?" Vec's expression hardened. "Custodian." "What?" Gabriel asked. "She's the one refusing lunch." "You are not part of her medical staff." "No, I'm the guy who has to clean up lunch." That earned him a longer stare. Talai pointed toward the tray. "Sharp." "Sharp how?" She thought. "Like the air before the service doors open." Gabriel's attention shifted from her to the wall. There were 2 service doors behind the dining chamber. Meals arrived through one, waste left through the other, both connected to Sable Crown's central logistics spine, where trays were sealed, sterilized, routed, tracked, and delivered under automatic control. Gabriel looked at the cup again. "Was that cup filled here?" An attendant answered. "Central service filled it before delivery." Gabriel nodded slowly. Vec said, "If you have a point, make it." "I don't yet." A soft chime sounded from Gabriel's cart. He glanced down. His brake reminder blinked on the little human work tablet clipped beside the cleaning solution. He had ignored the first reminder 20 minutes earlier. The second was harder to dismiss, because Captain Ward had made the crew wellness schedule annoyingly strict, after 3 people worked through meals during docking inspection. Gabriel reached into the lower locker of the cart and pulled out a dented metal lunchbox. Taylai turned her head. The lunchbox had once been red. Years of deck work had rubbed most of the paint from its corners. One latch sat slightly crooked. Gabriel set it on the upper shelf of his cart and flipped the latch. Click! Taylai's gaze locked on it. Gabriel noticed, but only after he had opened the lid. Inside were 2 wrapped flatbread halves, a sealed cup of bean stew, sliced fruit, and a small packet of salted crackers. Nothing royal, nothing decorative, nothing that had passed through Sable Crown's kitchens. Taylai leaned forward. Vec noticed that too. Gabriel peeled back one flatbread wrapper. You hungry? The Queen's head snapped toward him. The Marshal went perfectly still. Gabriel realized that perhaps asking an alien monarch's daughter if she wanted half his lunch violated several pages of diplomatic guidance. Taylai answered before anyone else could. Yes. Silence filled the chamber. Gabriel looked at Queen Mara. The Queen looked at the food, then at her daughter. Has it been screened? By the Kindred's galley this morning. After that, been in the box. Sealed. Gabriel tapped the crooked latch. Mostly. Vec stepped forward. Absolutely not. Taylai was already sliding from her chair. The Marshal blocked her path with one arm. Your Highness, unidentified human food is not an acceptable substitute for a medically approved royal meal. Gabriel wrapped the flatbread again. Fine by me. Taylai stared at him with such immediate betrayal that he almost laughed. Then she pointed at the fruit. That. Queen Mara studied her daughter for 3 long seconds. Give her 1 piece. Majesty, Vec said. 1. Gabriel took a slice with clean tongs from the cart kit rather than his fingers. He held it out. Taylai approached carefully as if expecting someone to stop her. She took the slice, sniffed it, and put it in her mouth. Everyone waited. She chewed. Her shoulders lowered. More. Queen Mara shut her eyes for half a heartbeat. Gabriel gave Taylai another slice. Then a cracker. Then half the flatbread. The princess ate without hesitation. The entire royal dining staff watched Gabriel Holt's lunch disappear in the hands of a girl who had refused 7 meals. Vec's certainty did not vanish. It changed shape. Different preparation environment, he said. Different texture, different scent. A stress response can still explain this. Maybe, Gabriel said. He lifted the sealed stew cup from the lunchbox, then stopped. The citrus cleaner smell returned. Stronger. Taylai froze with a cracker halfway to her mouth. There, she whispered. Gabriel turned. A thin line of pale vapor slipped from the seam above the service door. He moved before anyone else did. Back from the wall. Vec stepped toward the princess. The service door snapped open. A delivery unit shot through the gap too fast. It was supposed to glide. Instead, it slammed into the service table, scattering 3 untouched trays across the floor. One bounced off a chair. Another burst open. The delivery unit kept driving forward, wheels whining. Gabriel yanked his cleaning cart sideways. The unit struck it. The squeaking wheel collapsed. The cart twisted, but the impact turned the heavier machine away from Taylai. It crashed into the dining table and stopped beneath the Queen's guards. The room alarms began at once. System fault, the wall announced. Service path obstruction, recalculating. The door tried to close. A royal guard was standing in it. Gabriel lunged, jammed the steel handle of his floor brush between the panels, and the door struck the handle with a hard metallic crack. Move! The guard jumped clear. The door opened again, then slammed shut on the brush and bent it nearly double. Gabriel stared at the ruined handle. Okay, he said, that's new. Vec had Taylai behind him now. Central service, lock this chamber from logistics traffic. Command accepted. The opposite waist door opened. Gabriel's head turned. That wasn't a lock. A second delivery unit appeared in the waist corridor. This one stopped at the threshold. Then every light on its chassis turned red. Vec drew a compact sidearm but did not fire. Override Unit 7-4, Martial Authority. The machine reversed. For a moment, nothing moved. Then both service doors sealed. The wall announced, dining chamber isolated. Vec lowered his weapon. Gabriel smelled citrus again, faintly, through the ceiling vent. He pointed upward. You isolated the doors, he said, not the line. Vec's jaw tightened. The central environmental system will isolate the chamber. Gabriel looked at Talai. She had stopped eating. Her small fingers were wrapped around the blue cup. Does the environmental system use the same service spine? Vec did not answer immediately. That was answer enough. Queen Mara stood. Marshal. Vec touched his wrist control. Environmental command, isolate royal dining from central exchange. Local circulation only. A pause. Unable to comply. The Queen's expression changed. Not fear. Attention. Vec repeated the command. Unable to comply. Central service priority conflict. Gabriel closed his lunchbox. The crooked latch clicked. Now, he said, we have a supply problem. Vec looked at him, then at the blocked service door, then at the ceiling vent. The contempt was gone. Explain. Not here. The ceiling grill rattled. Gabriel grabbed the blue cup from Talai, dropped it into the lunchbox, and snapped the lid shut. Where's the nearest room with its own air? Vec pointed toward the diplomatic shelter across the corridor. Gabriel pushed his damaged cart toward the main door. The wheel no longer squeaked. It dragged. Behind him, the dining chamber ventilation fans accelerated without anyone ordering them to. Somewhere beyond the wall, a heavy pump changed rhythm twice. Gabriel's damaged cart pulled hard to the left as he shoved it into the corridor. Vec took the lead. Queen Mara kept one hand on Talai's shoulder, and two royal guards closed around them while the dining room fans roared behind the sealed door. The diplomatic shelter stood less than 30 meters away. They made 12. A floor panel ahead flashed amber. Service traffic crossing, the corridor announced. There is no crossing lane here, Vec said. A maintenance hatch opened in the ceiling. A bundle of meal containers dropped out. The first struck the floor and burst. The second slid beneath a guard's boot. He caught the wall before he fell. The third split open against Gabriel's cart, spraying sauce across the dented lunchbox. Talai recoiled. Gabriel shoved the cart aside and pointed at the opposite wall. Keep moving. Vec did not argue. They reached the shelter door as every overhead light blinked off. Emergency strips came on at ankle height. Vec planted his palm against the shelter reader. Marshal Vec, open. Nothing happened. He tried again. The door remained shut. Gabriel looked behind them. The dining room door had opened by itself. Pale vapor rolled across the floor. Does this one have a mechanical release? Vec pulled a cover from the wall and exposed a narrow lever. Royal security doors do not require manual. Today they do. Vec seized the lever. It resisted, then moved half a centimeter. Gabriel braced both hands beside his. Together they forced it down. The shelter door unlocked with a heavy clunk. The Queen pushed Talai inside first. The guards followed. Gabriel wrestled his damaged cart over the threshold, and Vec pulled the door shut behind them. Local lights came on. A separate ventilation fan began turning overhead. Talai relaxed enough to breathe normally. Gabriel opened the lunchbox, wiped sauce from the outside, and took out the blue cup. Still smells sharp. Talai sniffed the room. No. Vec watched her answer. His wrist communicator chimed. Marshal, a voice said. Central Logistics reports cascading route conflicts on decks 19 through 23. Environmental control shows no intrusion. Vec looked at the green indicators and stopped trusting them. Gabriel leaned closer to the wall vent. Ask them whether environmental control is reading itself. Vec glanced at him. Ask. Vec transmitted the question. The reply took too long. Environmental control confirms central integrity. From what sensor? Another pause. Central integrity sensor. Gabriel gave Vec a look. The marshal's face went still. Queen Mara said, Oran. Yes, Majesty. Stop asking the system whether the system is healthy. Vec changed channels. Engineering Team 4 physically inspect the Royal Service trunk at Deck 21. No remote diagnostics. Report by voice. The answer came back through static, moving. From then on, Vec checked every central answer against something physical, because the ship had already lied once today. Gabriel crouched beside Talai. Can I see the cup? She handed it over. He held the inside toward the shelter light. A faint white ring marked the bottom, the same film he had seen on the bowl. He placed the cup inside a clear waste bag and sealed it. "What is that?" the Queen asked. "Don't know, but both came through Central Service." Vex said, "The physician found nothing dangerous." "Maybe it isn't dangerous at the amount he tested. Maybe she smells it before everyone else. Maybe it's only a marker for something else." Gabriel tapped the bag. "I'm not guessing past that." The Queen nodded once. A communicator on the shelter wall lit. Captain Sienna Ward appeared in the small display from the bridge of the TNS Kindred. Her dark hair was tied back, and a restraint strap crossed one shoulder because the human corvette was preparing for maneuver. "Majesty, Marshal Gabriel." Vec frowned. "Why is your ship at maneuver readiness?" "Because your docking collar sent us 3 contradictory release commands in 40 seconds. I issued none." "I know." Ward looked at Gabriel. "What happened?" "Princess ate my lunch." A beat passed. Ward's expression did not change. "Useful." "Very." He explained the trays, the residue, the shared service path, the forced doors, and the shelter. Ward listened without interrupting. When he finished, she said, "Kindred stores food, water, air, cleaning supplies, and emergency power by compartment. Nothing on our side touched Sable Crown's service system after docking." Vec folded his arms. "Human inefficiency may have created a clean sample. That does not mean my ship is compromised." The shelter lights turned red. "Royal security condition," the wall announced. "Unauthorized movement detected. Diplomatic shelter will transfer occupants to secure custody." Vec stared at the wall. Queen Mara said, "Did you order that?" "No." The door locks engaged. Gabriel heard bolts drive into place. Ward spoke from the screen. "Marshal." Vec drew his sidearm, not at Gabriel, but at the shelter door. "My ship is compromised." The words landed without drama. They changed everything. Another channel flashed. 2 Central Logistics officers linked to the anti-treaty block had abandoned their posts. Captain Ward leaned forward. "We have one clean docking connection at Collar 12. I can put a boarding team through it and move the royal party to Kindred." Vec said, "Agreed." Gabriel looked at the sealed door. "How do we get from here to 12? "Royal Security Corridor," Vec said. "It has independent blast shutters." "Independent controls." A muscle moved in Vec's jaw. "Central authorization, local motors." "So half independent." "Yes." Ward said, "I'm sending a 6-person team. 8 minutes to your deck." The shelter vent stopped. The fan wound down. Talai looked up. Gabriel checked the local control. The indicator still showed green. "Fan says it's running." "It isn't," the Queen said. "No." Vec went to the mechanical door lever. "Then we leave now." He and Gabriel forced the lever down again. This time the door opened into darkness. The pale vapor in the corridor had vanished, but the air carried the sharp citrus trace. Gabriel left the broken cleaning cart behind. He kept the lunchbox. Talai noticed. "You saved it. Your cup's in there. And food." "Not much." "Enough." Gabriel looked at the half flatbread remaining. "For you, yes." She took his hand. He did not think royal protocol covered that either. They moved. Vec led them through a security passage that curved toward the shared docking spine. Every 100 meters, he stopped at a local panel and physically checked the next blast shutter before letting the Queen forward. The first 2 worked. The third began closing while they were under it. "Back!" Vec shouted. Gabriel pulled Talai toward him. One royal guard crossed to the far side before the shutter dropped. Queen Mara did not. The thick door slammed between mother and daughter. Talai screamed, "Mama!" Gabriel grabbed the manual wheel. It did not turn. Vec was on the opposite side with the Queen. His voice came through the emergency speaker. "Local motor has been overridden." Gabriel looked up and down the corridor. "Can you take another route?" "To Collar 12, yes." "Then go." Talai clutched his sleeve. Queen Mara's voice came through the speaker, controlled and immediate. "Gabriel, keep her moving." He looked at the narrow maintenance markings on the wall. "I'll get her there." Vec said, "The human boarding team is approaching from your side. Stay in the security corridor." The speaker died. The lights died with it. Gabriel and Talai stood in the red emergency glow with one royal guard, separated from the Queen by a door they could not open. Then the floor tilted. "Not much." Enough. Gabriel caught Talai before she slid into the wall. The sable crown was moving. His communicator crackled. Ward's voice came through. Gabriel, the royal ship has released station clamps. Was that planned? No. A deep vibration moved through the deck. Outside the hull, something struck metal. Ward spoke faster. Collar 12 just went into emergency separation. My boarding team is still in the transfer tube. Gabriel stopped breathing for half a second. Can you hold it? I'm trying. On Kindred's bridge, Captain Ward watched the docking collar stretch between the two ships like a rigid silver bridge being pulled from both ends. Sable crown rolled from Calyx reach, slow on the display but brutally real. Collar load 80%, her pilot said. Kindred clamps. Holding. Royal clamps. Cycling. Ward looked at the 6 human crew inside the tube. If the far clamps released, the tube would tear free. Her original plan had depended on one clean connection. That assumption was gone. Boarding team, she said, reverse now. Lieutenant Mara Ives answered from inside the tube. We're 30 meters from the royal hatch. Reverse. The far end jerked. One royal clamp released. The tube bent. Now. The team turned and ran back toward Kindred. Ward keyed maneuver control. Local authority to docking thrusters. Bridge central is advisory only. Port forward compartment, give me 2 degrees against the roll. Port forward has it. Starboard aft match. Matching. Kindred's small thruster clusters fired separately. The human corvette shifted with the larger battleship instead of fighting it. The collar load dropped for 3 seconds. Then the sable crown's remaining clamp released. The transfer tube snapped away from the royal hull. Ward's pilot swore. The 6 humans were still inside. Retract tube. Kindred's machinery hauled the flexible structure inward as it whipped through open space. The boarding team threw themselves through the inner hatch. Ward waited until the last helmet cleared. Seal. The hatch slammed. A moment later, the severed outer section of the transfer tube spun past the bridge windows and vanished beneath the sable crown. Ward exhaled once. The clean rescue route was gone. Gabriel, she said over comms, Collar 12 is lost. Do not go there. Static answered. Then Gabriel's voice. That was the route Vec gave us. I know. So what's the new one? Ward looked at the rotating royal battleship, the widening gap to Calyx reach, and the docking schematic that had just become useless. I don't have one yet. A warning sounded. Calyx reach traffic control reported the sable crown had crossed its assigned berth boundary. Station tugs began backing away. Ward stared at the huge ship. It was not merely malfunctioning anymore. Someone was using its own central authority to move it. And the Kindred, built to survive without a center, was now the only ship close enough to follow. Ward ordered the outer compartments to secure independently, then pushed Kindred after the drifting battleship before the station could close the lane completely. Gabriel's communicator went dead as a blast shutter dropped behind him. The Royal Guard beside him struck the wall panel twice, got no response, and looked toward the nearest maintenance hatch. Talai was still holding Gabriel's hand. New route, she asked. Working on it. The corridor sloped another degree as the sable crown continued its unauthorized turn. Gabriel planted his boots wider. The Narethi guard, Serve, opened the maintenance hatch manually and shone a wrist light into a narrow service passage. It runs toward the dorsal utility ring, Serve said. From there, we can reach the royal lift bank. Central lifts. Serve's mouth tightened. Right, Gabriel said, not the lifts. He studied the markings. Narethi maintenance symbols were different from human ones, but dirt behaved the same in every language. Airflow left streaks. Service panels collected dust at their hinges. Frequently opened access plates stayed cleaner than decorative ones. A thin, clean line ran along the lower wall. Gabriel followed it. This panel gets used. Serve opened it. Behind the plate sat a manual pressure door with a wheel. Talai looked at Gabriel. You know this ship? No. Then how did you know? I know people who hate crawling farther than they have to. Serve almost laughed. They entered the utility passage. For the next 100 meters, the ship fought them without ever firing a weapon. A local fan reversed, and shoved warm air into their faces. A floor grate unlocked under Serv's boot, forcing them to detour across a cable shelf. 2 service doors opened at once and released a stream of empty cargo carriers that rattled through the passage like metal animals. Gabriel pushed Talai into a recess. Serv caught the first carrier with both hands and tried to turn it aside. The second hit the first. Gabriel yanked a wall lever marked for emergency cargo stop. Nothing happened. He pulled the lunchbox from his shoulder strap, wedged it behind the lever housing, and used the metal edge as a brace. The lever moved. A mechanical brake engaged beneath the track. The carriers shrieked to a stop less than a meter from Serv. Gabriel stared at the new dent in the lunchbox. Talai said, "You broke it. Made it more experienced." The passage lights flashed green. Then every cargo carrier behind the first began reversing. "Move!" They climbed over the stopped units before the track changed direction again. At the same time, Kindred rolled hard beneath the Sable Crown's ventral hull. Captain Ward did not ask the central flight computer to coordinate the maneuver. She asked compartments. "Port forward, 10% braking. 10. Dorsal 2, pulse on my mark. Ready. Engineering local. Keep reactor 2 isolated from bridge demand." Already isolated. The responses came from different voices, different rooms, different control loops. The ship had a bridge, but the bridge did not own every survival function. Human designers had spent centuries assuming cables would burn, officers would be cut off, compartments would flood, antennas would vanish. Software would lie, and someone with half a map would still need to keep the vessel alive. Vec had called that philosophy wasteful. Ward had never considered it philosophical. It was simply how ships were built. Sable Crown's maneuvering jets fired again, rolling the Royal battleship toward the station traffic ring. Kindred's pilot frowned. If they keep this rate, their aft section will cross the civilian lane. How long? 11 minutes. Ward keyed Calyx reach traffic control. Clear the lane now. Don't wait for the Royal system to acknowledge. Already moving traffic. Good. A new warning appeared. Royal point defense sensors had locked onto Kindred. Ward felt the bridge become quieter. Are they tracking or ranging? Ranging. Do not target back. Her tactical officer looked at her. "Captain, there are Royal crews in those mounts, and whoever controls them knows we're here." "Yes." Kindred slid closer anyway. Ward needed communication with Gabriel, and Sable Crown's hull was swallowing his weak signal. She could retreat to safe range or stay beneath the larger ship, where its own structure blocked some of its weapons. She chose close. Bring us inside their ventral firing arc. Kindred moved under the battleship. 3 Royal mounts rotated and lost line of sight. A 4th kept turning. Its barrel stopped against its own mechanical limit. Ward said, "That buys us one problem at a time." Her communications officer raised a hand. "I have Gabriel weak. Patch." Static filled the bridge. Then Talai's voice came through. "Captain Human." Ward blinked. "Yes, Princess." "Gabriel says your route is bad." Gabriel's voice followed. She edited for tone. Ward looked at the schematic. "Where are you?" "Dorsal utility ring. Section marking Violet 9. Serv says there's an emergency observation lock 2 levels above." Ward's pilot pulled up external geometry. "There's a hull blister there," he said. "Maintenance observation pod. No proper docking interface." "Can we reach it?" "Close enough to throw a line, maybe." Ward keyed comms. "Gabriel, get to that blister. I can bring Kindred alongside." "What about the Queen?" "Vec has her moving toward an independent command shelter on the other side. I have contact with him." Talai squeezed Gabriel's hand harder. He heard it in the silence. "Will she be there?" "That's the plan." Plans, Ward thought, had become temporary things. Gabriel and Serv reached the observation lock 6 minutes later. The hatch refused central authorization. Serv pulled the manual release. It opened. Beyond was a cramped, transparent blister protruding from Sable Crown's hull, built for inspection crews. Stars wheeled slowly across its curved window as the battleship rolled. Talai pressed both hands to the glass. There, Kindred appeared below them. Compared with the Sable Crown, the human ship looked almost absurdly small. Its gray hull carried none of the royal battleship's sweeping fins or polished armor ridges. Boxy compartments clustered around a narrow spine. Thruster pods sat where they could be replaced rather than where they looked elegant. The little ship moved with sharp, separate bursts. One thruster fired, then another, then a third on the opposite side. It did not move like one machine, receiving one perfect command. It moved like many pieces, agreeing on the same goal. Vex saw it from a different window. He and Queen Mara had reached Command Shelter 3 when the central network sealed every lift and rerouted security teams away from them. Vec had abandoned the authorized path and led the Queen through a weapons inspection corridor he had not walked in 12 years. Now he stood at a local observation port, while Kindred crept along Sable Crown's hull. His communicator carried Ward's clipped orders. Dorsal 2 hold. Port forward half pulse. Life support 5, ignore bridge recycle request. Stay local. Each answer came from somewhere else. Vec watched 3 Royal Point Defense mounts track the human ship. Kindred moved beneath their limits. A 4th mount adjusted. Kindred rolled just enough to put a massive Narethi sensor ridge between itself and the gun. No grand weapon fired. No secret engine appeared. The human ship simply kept having another way to continue. Vec finally understood what Gabriel's lunchbox had shown him. Isolation was not the absence of cooperation. It was the refusal to let one failure become every failure. Marshal, Queen Mara said. He turned. She was watching him rather than the window. You thought their duplication was weakness. Yes. And now, Vec looked back at the small ship, holding itself against the skin of his crippled flagship. Now I think we built Sable Crown to obey too well. A violent shudder ran through the deck. The observation window shutters slammed closed. Ward's voice burst over the communicator. Vec, someone just brought your dorsal weapon ring under local control. That ring has 6 mounts. I know. Can you disable it? Yes. The answer came too quickly. Vec looked at the Queen. Ward continued, but 2 of your security teams are trapped in the ring compartments. If I cut power with weapons, I may strand them without safe pressure control. Vec understood the choice. Do not fire. Agreed. No hesitation. That calm frightened him more than bravado would have. Kindred reached the maintenance blister. Gabriel saw a small hatch open on the human hull. A suited crew member emerged, clipped to a line, and launched a magnetic tether across the gap. It struck Sable Crown's outer handrail and locked. Seraph tested the inner mechanism. We can send the princess across in a rescue sleeve. Talai stepped back from the window. Gabriel too. I'll follow. The blister lights turned red. Seraph looked at the control panel. What? The outer hatch has locked. Gabriel's communicator crackled. Ward said, we have another problem. Outside, Kindred suddenly dropped away from the hull. Not by choice. Sable Crown's dorsal maneuvering jets fired directly across the human corvette's position. Ward had 2 seconds to react. Break contact. Ventral down full local. Kindred kicked away. The magnetic tether snapped taut, then released automatically before it could drag the crew member into the royal hull. The suited human spun clear and reeled back toward Kindred. The corvette fell 500 meters in moments. Royal Point Defense mounts gained clear sight. All mounts ranging, Tactical said. Ward watched 6 threat markers appear. The saboteurs had learned. They had used Sable Crown's own maneuvering jets to force Kindred out from under the safe firing geometry. Return fire authorized, Tactical asked. Ward saw the trapped Narethi crew locations, still glowing inside the weapon ring. No. A royal mount fired a warning burst past Kindred's bow. The station filled the background. Ward could retreat. If she did, the princess remained sealed in the blister. The Queen remained inside the compromised battleship, and Sable Crown still had 8 minutes before its aft mast crossed the evacuated but fragile civilian traffic structure. Her easy options were gone. Captain, the pilot said, they're pushing us out. Ward watched the royal ship turn. For the first time, the opponent had improved its position faster than the humans could answer. Then Gabriel's weak voice reached the bridge. Ward, the blister has a manual exterior service rail. She looked up. Can you reach it? Maybe. That is not a comforting word. Best one I've got. Ward glanced at the tactical display, then at the station beyond it. Use it. She turned to her bridge. We're changing the rescue plan again. Kindred rolled away under another warning burst, while 6 royal mounts followed, and the maintenance blister carrying Tali vanished behind Sable Crown's armored ridge from view. Gabriel opened the blister's inner maintenance locker and found 3 pressure suits designed for Narethi inspection crews. One was child-sized. Serv stared at it. Royal ships keep emergency suits beside every exterior work rail, Gabriel said. Yes, good habit. Do not sound surprised. I'm trying not to. They moved quickly. Tali's suit sealed around her with a soft hiss. Serv checked every closure twice. Gabriel's borrowed suit was too narrow across the shoulders, but the helmet locked and the pressure indicator turned green. Outside the transparent shutter, stars continued to rotate. Gabriel clipped the lunchbox to his chest harness. Tali tapped it through her glove. You brought it. Your cup is still evidence. And the crackers. Also evidence. She seemed satisfied. Serv pulled the exterior release. Nothing happened. He opened the mechanical cover and cranked the emergency wheel. The outer hatch moved. Air rushed into the recovery vents. The 3 of them stepped onto Sable Crown's exterior service rail. The battleship's hull curved beneath their boots like a dark metal world. Far below, Kindred maneuvered through scattered warning fire, each burst of its thrusters changing direction without waiting for a single central rhythm. Gabriel's magnetic boots clamped to the rail. Tali looked down once. Don't do that, he said. I already did. Then don't do it twice. They moved toward the next hull recess. Ward saw their suit beacons appear. Got them, communications said. The pilot asked, how are we reaching them with the weapon ring tracking us? Ward studied the geometry. They could not approach directly. They could make Sable Crown move. Marshal Vec, she said, can you locally vent maneuvering propellant from Dorsal Reserve 3? Vec's reply came from Command Shelter 3. That reserve is tied to Central Flight. Is there a manual maintenance dump? A pause. Yes. Can someone reach it? Another pause. I can. Queen Mara said something off-channel. Vec returned. I am moving. Ward allowed herself one breath of relief. The plan was not human anymore. That mattered. Vec left the Queen with 2 guards and entered a narrow maintenance shaft behind the command shelter. He crawled toward a system he had once considered beneath his attention. At the first junction, Central Control locked the next hatch. He opened it manually. At the second, emergency lighting failed. He continued by wrist lamp. At the third, a security drone descended from the ceiling and ordered him to return to custody. Martial authority, Vec said. Authority invalid. The drone extended a restraint arm. Vec stepped aside, caught the arm, and jammed it against the hatch frame. The machine fought him. He tore open the maintenance cover beside the frame and pulled the local power disconnect. The drone went limp. He felt embarrassed that the disconnect had always been there. Ward, he said when he reached the propellant controls. At manual dump. Wait for my mark. Kindred accelerated away from Sable Crown. The royal mounts followed. Ward let the distance open until the weapon ring committed to the chase. Now, Vec pulled the lever. A white plume erupted from Sable Crown's dorsal reserve. The huge battleship rotated half a degree against its hijacked turn. Half a degree was enough. The armored ridge slid between Kindred and 4 of the 6 mounts. Go, Ward said. Kindred burned toward Gabriel's position. The remaining 2 mounts fired. Ward's tactical officer tracked the bursts. We can knock both out. Crew compartments. Still occupied. Then no. Kindred rolled through the first burst and used a local thruster cluster to slip beneath the second. A warning appeared on Ward's board. Port forward thruster compartment overheated. Take it offline. The pilot looked at her. We need it for the pickup. We need the crew inside it more. Port forward shut down independently. Kindred's maneuver became uneven. The saboteurs noticed. Sable Crown's nearer mount adjusted toward the weakened side. Opponent action. Real advantage. Ward changed again. Dorsal 2, you own our role. Starboard aft, you own translation. Bridge will coordinate timing only. 2 compartments acknowledged. Kindred's motion became awkward but controlled. Gabriel reached the end of the service rail as the human corvette rose beside the hull. A rescue sleeve shot from Kindred and locked magnetically to the rail. Talai went first. Serv guided her into the flexible tube. Halfway across, Sable Crown's point defense mount rotated toward them. Gabriel saw the barrel move. "Ward, we see it. Can you stop it?" "Working." The mount's local control ignored Vec's commands. Kindred could destroy it. Ward still refused. Instead, she drove the corvette closer, too close for the mount to track the rescue sleeve, without pointing through Sable Crown's own hull. The weapon stopped. Kindred's starboard armor nearly touched the royal ship. The pilot whispered, "That margin is terrible." "Yes." Talai reached the human airlock. Gabriel followed. Serv came last. The moment the hatch sealed, Ward ordered Kindred away. The royal mount regained line of sight. It fired. Kindred rolled. The burst struck an empty docking structure behind them instead of the corvette. Calyx reached control, shouted over the channel. Ward looked at the time. 4 minutes until Sable Crown's aft mast crossed the station's fragile outer traffic ring. Rescue had succeeded. The larger problem had not. "Vec," Ward said, "we can take the Queen off next pass." "No." Ward frowned. Vec continued, "If we abandon Sable Crown while central authority remains compromised, the ship continues into Calyx reach." "That is correct. Then we stop the ship first." Queen Mara's voice joined them. "Captain Ward, what do you need?" Ward looked at the royal battleship schematic. The sabotage lived in the central service and command trunk. Destroying that trunk from outside would be simple. It would also cut pressure, power, and access to occupied compartments around it. The safe solution was slower. "We need your crew to isolate the trunk physically at 6 local junctions." Vec understood. "Manual disconnects." "Yes. My security teams can reach 4. Gabriel knows a route to 1 near the service ring." Gabriel, standing inside Kindred's airlock with his helmet off, heard his name. He sighed. Talai held out the lunchbox. "You forgot this." He took it. "Thanks." Ward met him at the inner hatch. "I need you back aboard Sable Crown." "I figured." "You can say no." Gabriel looked through the port at the drifting royal ship, then at Talai. "Who else knows where the dirty line runs?" "Not enough people." "Then open the hatch." The final operation began, with 6 teams moving separately. That was the part Vec would remember. No single command path controlled them all. His security crews entered from 2 sides. Gabriel crossed with a human engineering pair through a maintenance sleeve. Queen Mara stayed in local command shelter and relayed only what she knew. Kindred handled external geometry. Calyx Reach cleared the last traffic structures. The saboteurs countered. They sealed Junction 4. Vec's team cut through a local access panel and approached from below. They reversed airflow at Junction 2. Gabriel's team sealed their suit collars and kept moving. They spun Sable Crown faster. Ward matched the turn with Kindred using 3 independent thruster compartments, one of them operating at reduced power. At Junction 5, Gabriel found the citrus smell again. Here, the human engineer opened the panel. Behind it ran the central service trunk, bright with warning lights. A local disconnect lever sat beside the frame. Gabriel wrapped both hands around it. "Ready." 5 voices answered from 5 other junctions. Vec S was last. "Ready." The 6th junction had not checked in. Ward watched the countdown toward the station ring. 90 seconds. Junction 6. Static. Then a Narethi security officer answered. "Blocked. We need another minute." They did not have it. Ward could fire now and destroy the trunk. She looked at the occupied compartments around it. "No." Her tactical officer understood. Ward keyed the external channel. Calyx Reach released Tug Group 7. The station controller hesitated. "Those tugs are civilian equipment." "Remote them." "What are you doing?" Buying 60 seconds. 3 cargo tugs detached from the station and accelerated toward Sable Crown. They locked onto the battleship's aft service handles and fired at maximum pull. The tugs were never designed to arrest a royal warship. Their frames bent. Their engines screamed. But Sable Crown's drift slowed. Ward had traded equipment and time for people. Junction 6. Reached. Disconnect on my mark, Ward said. 3, 2, 1, pull. Gabriel hauled the lever down. Across Sable Crown, 6 local disconnects opened. The central trunk went dark. Doors stopped moving. Hijacked thrusters died. The point defense mounts froze. For one long second, the Royal battleship became silent machinery. Then local systems began, returning one compartment at a time. Air, lights, pressure, communications. Not central. Local. Sable Crown stopped fighting its own crew. The cargo tugs pulled the final meters of drift away from the traffic ring. On Kindred's bridge, Ward watched the collision warning disappear. No one cheered. "Secure the ship," she said. 3 hours later, the royal dining chamber smelled like warm stone again. The broken delivery unit was gone. The damaged service doors stood open under local control. 6 untouched trays had been removed, but Taylai's blue cup sat on the table beside Gabriel's lunchbox. Vec entered without an escort. He placed a small manual control key beside the cup. "What is that?" Gabriel asked. "Authority." Gabriel waited. Vec looked toward the repaired service doors. Royal emergency doctrine now requires local isolation authority for environmental, food, water, docking, and maintenance systems. Custodial and service personnel may invoke it without central approval when contamination is suspected. That sounds expensive. Vec's mouth moved slightly. "I am learning to respect expensive." Queen Mara entered with Taylai. The princess carried a tray. She set it down, sniffed it, and took a bite. Gabriel smiled. The queen said, "There is one more change." Later, through the docking windows, the TNS Kindred moved into Sable Crown's inner protection berth. That berth had belonged to the queen's own guardship. Now the human corvette settled between the royal vessel and Calyx Reach, equal inside the defense line rather than tolerated outside it. The clamps closed. Gabriel returned to work. His replacement cleaning cart rolled silently across the reopened collar, but he had bolted the old squeaking caster to one corner because Taylai insisted the new cart lacked character. The battered lunchbox hung beside his supplies. Its crooked latch still worked. On top sat Taylai's empty blue cup. The inner berth doors remained open behind him.